Hi, we're here today on the south bank of the Clyde, just west of Glasgow, at a place called Port Glasgow, to have a look at one of the best preserved late medieval buildings anywhere in Scotland. I'm Adrian Cox from Historic Scotland, and we're here today to have a look at Newark Castle. The castle was built by Patrick Maxwell in around about 1480, and at the centre of this castle was a great four-storey tower house behind me. It was surrounded by a courtyard, or so-called barmkin, which contained lots of other buildings. Archaeological excavations recently have identified lots of those buildings. Some of them were bakehouses, there would be kitchens and stables for the horses. The castle wasn't long built when it had a very illustrious visitor. The king himself came here, James IV. He invited all of his lairds, from the historical records tell us, from the Eastlands, the Westlands and the Southlands, to rendezvous with him here at Newark. The king gathered his lairds here and asked them to bring along their gunners, and then they set sail for Argyll to put down some unrest that was developing in the Western Isles. In 1597, Patrick Maxwell was the lord of the castle, and he transformed the old castle into a fabulous Renaissance mansion, building this north range that's behind me. This is the pedimented front door of the castle, and it's got a lovely inscription over the doorway. It says, "The blessings of God be herein." And above that, there's a little monogram that reads PMC, which is Patrick Maxwell and his wife, Margaret Crawford. Sir Patrick Maxwell was a pillar of society. He was a close friend of the King, James VI, and he was Justice of the Peace. But actually, he was quite a rogue as well. He was very cruel to his wife and very quarrelsome with his neighbours, two of whom he murdered. So perhaps there were precious few of God's blessings within this house. This is Sir Patrick Maxwell's dining room from the 1590s in the North Range. It would have been full of colour in the late medieval period. There would have been tapestries on the walls, and people would have ate their meals in here. The Great Hall would have been heated by a fire in this enormous fireplace here, with its huge decorated lintel stone across the top. It really would have been quite warm for the guests dining at the table here. We're coming into the tower house, the basement of the tower house in the 1480s castle now, and we're in a big vaulted storeroom in the basement. Huge joist sockets in the walls for a wooden floor which would have run across the top of my head here, and a spiral staircase in the corner. It's difficult to imagine that during the 18th and 19th centuries this place was surrounded by shipyards that grew up along the banks of the River Clyde. With the disappearance of the last shipyard here in 1984, Newark Castle has once again re-emerged to take its rightful place in the township of Port Glasgow. And it's open during the summer. If you'd like to come and visit it, it's now looked after by Historic Scotland, who care for it for the people of Scotland.